guys, it's Sean the EV Bloke here, back with another video. And in this video I'd just like to do a 6-month update. I've had the car for 6 months now, so I just want to do an update on the car and let you know how things have been. Obviously through the various videos I've been doing over the past, and we can go back over those if you want, with a lot of the issues I have with the car. But not everything's negative about it, far from it. And so I thought I'd split it up into some categories, really. And the sort of things that are really important to people who might be looking to buy this car, as example. So the first thing is the practicality. So it's a small to mid-sized SUV. So how does it work out in terms of practicality? Then we'll look at the efficiency, which is obviously important. Charging, so the charging speed. If you want to do longer trips on this, is this the kind of car for you? And and then we'll just sort of generally sum up other things as they come to mind or whatever. Just to start off with one thing, I've only used the vehicle to load, which this vehicle comes with, once, which I've got a video on the channel. Go and have a look at that if you want. And basically it was kind of a bit of an epic failure in that I just didn't seem to be able to plug more than one thing in at a time on it, which I don't think is how it's supposed to work, but that's what happened anyway. And so that was the first thing there. So how practical that is, really, I don't know. I know you can plug one item in it. Perhaps I'll do an updated video on that and see how we get on with that and see if there's any change, kind of thing. So yeah. So let's talk about the practical sides of this car. So the space, the ease of use, and all of these kinds of things. I have mentioned this in other videos. I've got no problem whatsoever with the storage in here. It's fantastic. Let me excuse the mess. You've got door bins which will fit bottles in it, and we've got some hand cream in there, things like that. The glove box is kind of okay, get a few in there, quite a bit in there. So I've got wipes in there and bits and pieces, things like that in there. And then of course you've got all this storage here. You've got, this is obviously for the mobile phone. I don't actually use it because I find it overheats. So unless you probably were to, say, for instance, aim the directional air vents down, maybe that helps or whatever, I don't know, but I just tend to find it overheats. These I've spoken about loads. They're just not that practical, really. The extender thing that it comes with, you could do with one each side. If you both wanted, say, for instance, a cup of coffee, that would be helpful, because then the cups would sit much higher. But if you want to use a water bottle and a coffee, it works fine. So it just depends on your drinking side there. My total mileage is 5,134 miles, which in 6 months is pretty low, actually, really, isn't it? It's not that dramatic. So you can see on there, I've got 51%, 139 miles left of range. We're still getting this past 50-mile thing, which is how it calculates everything. I've got a full review of the infotainment system, so which still gets a lot of views today, actually. I'm very, very pleased with that particular one I did, because it's probably my most watched video, actually. So thanks for watching that, guys. That gets quite a lot of views. That's up to about nearly 8,000 views now, which is quite good for a small channel like myself. But yeah, so is also good. My son is 6'2", 6'3". He sits behind here fine, behind me, in fact, even, and I'm 6'2". So so there's absolutely no problems. You'll get 3 average size adults, or even a couple of taller ones in the back here. No problem. You've got 440 litres of boot space, and the floor drops. So you can basically, you can have an extended floor, so you can essentially drop it down or leave it at a higher level, which is what I do, and keep the cables underneath, because there's a bit of a gap then, like that, where you can fit your cables and bits and pieces under there. So that's what I've done. So it keeps the cables out of the way. No front trunk, as you probably know, and no front trunk coming on the refreshed version of this car, because there's a refreshed version of this car coming out later in the year. And there's no, as far as I know, there's no front trunk in that one either. And yet it's quite a big world to have one. But as I've mentioned again in previous videos, I'm not that. I think it's a bit of a fallacy really with the front trunks. I mean, they're really there for cable storage really, or the odd bag. I mean, you're not getting massive room in virtually any of them really, apart from maybe you start going to the American trucks like the Rivians and that, which have quite big ones. Excuse me. But outside of that, there's not a lot of difference there. So yeah, so that's that. So yeah, all round the practicality of this car is really, really good. You got also central storage here. I've shown you that before. And you've got storage under there as well where the USBs are. So that's another area of storage. So you've got plenty of storage, plenty of space. It's a good, for the size of the vehicle, actually, you're probably getting a lot. You feel like you've got a lot more space in here. I find the space is just not an issue. So practicality wise, excellent. So let's move on to efficiency. So efficiency with the car is one of those things where I think is actually really, really good on this car. I have to say, it's fitted with a heat pump, as a lot are, but it seems to have this thing of scavenging and allowing heat and scavenging heat. It seems to work on a basis of trying to keep the battery at optimum temperature all the time. That's what I'm noticing, and there's big fluctuations in what heat and what cooling you get inside the cabin. I'm finding that definitely, and I think it's the way the car utilizes that to cool or heat the battery. That's what I'm seeing, because sometimes in winter it can be quite cold in here, and vice versa in summer. I think there's something wrong with my condenser, my whole system of the aircon, so it's going to get booked in to have that checked, because it's just blowing hot air half the time, especially if it's really warm, which is obviously not right. So they're going to look into that. But yeah, essentially on efficiency wise, I don't have any problem. You're going to get around about 220, 230, something like this in the winter, and you're going to get the 260, I would say, maybe even a little bit more of a push in the summer. So you can't ask for much more than that. So efficiency wise, we didn't have a very cold winter, and we're having a pretty, apart from the few hot days we had, it's been a pretty mild winter really. Let's be honest, about cool winter. I would say it's about 17 degrees today. I'm in July now, so that says it all really. So we're not having, so it's, I've not seen how it deals with the tremendous fluctuations if you have a very cold winter or a very hot summer. See how that works out for efficiency. But on the whole, the efficiency has been pretty good. I've got no problems with that. So that's all good. Now, when we come to the charging speed, as we know, and I've covered this in a lot of my videos, you know, I'm not that particularly happy with rarely getting the full, unless it's really, really warm outside, 23, 24 degrees or more. You don't seem to get or I haven't been, seem to be getting the top amount, which is already low, by the way. 88 kilowatts, 89 kilowatts is what you should be getting out of this vehicle. And I've always said anything under a sort of 150. So if you're thinking of buying this as a road tripping car, I would test drive one, ask for one for a weekend where you can get a real feel for it, and go out and charge it and go out and use it in your day-to-day life and see how that fits in with you. Because if you're going to do a lot of road trips, I think probably, I personally couldn't really advise you with the cars that's out there now to get one of these. I'll be honest. I've just been honest there really. But it is efficient, so you have to rub that up against it. For everyday stuff, going around town, local stuff, and even going 1 or 2 hours in a 1 or 2 hour radius, yeah, it's okay. You're going to charge up once, and you can cope with a 45-minute charge probably if you have to. So that's not an issue. But as I say, you need to think about if you're doing a lot of miles on the road, whether this is really the car for you. And maybe if you're doing a lot of cars, you're probably looking at business people anyway, and they probably would have a vehicle like this anyway. So I mean, I'm just sort of. But if you are someone that goes on a lot of holidays, a lot of breaks, like to go away for weekend breaks, you like to do most of your travelling by road, think very carefully on this car for that purpose. And so we move on to the infotainment system. It's never failed me, I have to say. It's never cut off. It's never sort of gone wrong. It done a recent update, and I've got half the radio stations now, which is a bit of a shame. I think someone said you can do a hard reset, but I don't know what that would do. But anyway, yeah, it seems to me that it seems to me it's a very basic system. It could do with a lot more information. As I've mentioned before, we're here in the UK. I'm doing this video from the UK. I'm a UK based owner of this car, and it just gives kilowatt hours per 100 miles. So, I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me really. You need miles per kilowatt in here, and you also need up-to-date information over every trip. You want every trip recorded. You know, all those sorts of nerdy type things are important to a lot of drivers nowadays. So that could do with being revised. And I am going to send this video to my people at BYD, the one or two people contacts I have, so I can share these things with them, and hopefully they can give me some feedback on whether there's going to be changes and all these kinds of things. As far as I know, with software updates, most cars should be available to cope with a lot of stuff to do software updates on, even down to the things like brake feel, you know, how the lots of stuff can be dealt with through that. So I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't had more over the air updates. I'd like to see more. And the last one we just had was really nothing much on it, really. But you can go back to my other videos and go over that if you really want to. So what's my overall impressions of the BYD Atto3? It's a good family car if you don't go far, I'd say. You know, if you're not doing hundreds of miles, which most people aren't, let's be honest, most people are going to work, coming home, and, you know, disappearing off in a sort of half an hour to an hour radius at weekends maybe, and things like that. And this car does it more than enough. Okay, you know, I love the smoothness of the ride. It's got a good, I mean, it's an SUV, so you're not going to go whacking it around the corners. It is going to obviously wobble around if you do that. It's not designed for that, but it's a nice smooth ride, nice and soft. I like that. You know, don't feel too much of the bumps. The 18-inch wheels fill the arches well and give you a good ride. Acceleration, you need it on sport to really feel it, I say. If you've got it in eco and even the sort of normal mode, yeah, it's not tremendously responsive, but it holds its own. It's quick enough, I'd say, for this class of vehicle. So yeah, no issues that way. The BYD assistant's pretty good. It will open up the sunroof. Most of the things, it's learning the kind of words you need to say to it to get it to do the things, but it will do quite a bit, and that's not bad. Still got the low speed sound. The low speed pedestrian sound is still very loud on here. I have seen in one or two other countries they've lowered the volume of that through over the air software updates or whatever. But we don't seem to have that here yet, which is a bit of a surprise. But yeah, so that's the general things on that. As I say, with the navigation system, I've covered this in the past. It doesn't route you to a charger. So again, if you're on road trips, you would have to fall back on Zap Map and other apps to enable you to do that. So it won't navigate you to a destination for recharging the car. It also doesn't precondition either, like a lot of cars do now. So it doesn't prepare the battery to receive a high charged thing. So that's another thing it doesn't do either. So yeah, you can route this to Scotland and it'll just give you the route, and you'll go on, and then it'll just tell you something near when you're getting near to when your battery runs out, that you need to find somewhere to charge. So so you need quite a bit of planning on that, where there's a lot of other cars now are starting to move away from that kind of thing. So in overall, this is a company that's been around since the 90s and seriously making cars since about 2007, 2008. They're a tech company, and they obviously have made a pretty impressive battery. We're pretty sure about that. I think you can even keep fast charging this car. It doesn't seem to even degrade the battery. So they've done some great work on that. They need to work on their autopilot systems, as it were. In other words, their cruise control is virtually useless apart from being right on the motorway. You wouldn't want to use this anywhere else. They don't seem to be big innovators on that. They look like the type of company that's probably going to follow others when they've come up with the technology. They don't seem to be so bent on that. The software on the system could be a lot better, as we've gone over before. So for a tech company, which is essentially what they are, a battery maker in loads of mobile phones, you'll find their components. So they could be doing better, I feel, in that area as well. Build quality is the surprise, because I think it's actually a really well built car. I've got no rattles, no squeaks. It's excellent. I've got no issues with the build quality of the car, none whatsoever. It's really good. You know, I mean, sometimes when you've been driving a car for a while, it breaks in, you suddenly start getting, you know, these annoying sort of squeaks, and you know, you find that on quite a few cars, not just electric cars. But in this one, no, it's very well built, very well put together. And that was probably the one thing that people were worried about with electric cars. It's quite kind of ironic with the BYD Atto3, because it could be so much better technology-wise, in its routing, the way it routes you, obviously information that's provided for you in here. All the software-y kind of technology side could be so much better, which surprises me. And yet the build quality is where you would think there'd be an issue with a Chinese car, and it's actually not. This is as good as built as I've been driving since 1990, when I passed my driving test. I've had a lot of cars over the years, most of them petrol and diesel, of course, but I'm just saying, you know, and I've had some ropey cars, I've had some half decent cars, I've had all across the spectrum at different parts of my life. And this holds up to any really well built car out there, I would say. You know, these handles, which you've probably seen before, they're all working well. The sound system, again, is another thing, pretty good. So all on that side, it's quite good. So to summarize then, if you're wanting to do loads of miles, I wouldn't get a BYD Atto3, in my personal opinion, because it's just a slow charging, too slow by 2024 standards. You can do so. I think a Vauxhall Mocha does 125 kilowatts, a little sort of town car like that. So this is kind of behind on that side of it, really. And so it's just keeping you there that bit too long. Because I don't have a home charger, I charge it a lot. I mean, I do use slow chargers, but I have to charge it a lot on fast charging. So I do spend a lot of time at chargers, and I just find it irritating to be 45 minutes plus just to fill up a car in 2024, where so many of them, I mean, some of the real fast ones out there are doing 17, 18 minutes now. I mean, it's anything over half an hour to 80%, it's got to be not good. And this is in that bracket. So, but as I say, if you're using it for local stuff, you live locally, you work locally, your schools are locally, etc., 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 then it's okay. You know, as I say, and it's a nice driving car and it's well built. So you got to weigh up all these things, really. But so I hope that summary helps for anyone thinking about buying a BYD. If you're in the market of getting one, like I say, think about those points I've made. But you're not getting a bad car. And I think gone are the days of the Chinese cars being rubbish, I would say, because this isn't a rubbish car. Improvements it could have, absolutely, but it's not a rubbish car. And I'm pretty sure as time goes on, they will improve and improve and improve as well. They come in, it's kind of strange because they're coming into a British market where for political reasons and for everything else, you wouldn't think that there's people rolling over to go to a Chinese car. But having said that, they do seem to be selling quite well. So, you know, and of course they are, for this size of vehicle and spec and everything, they're quite well priced, I suppose, or competitively priced, I should say. But yeah, anyway, I'm waffling on now, beyond waffling. So I'll let you get back to your day. Have a great one. Please give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And so please help me out on that one. Yeah, I enjoy doing the videos. Like I say, it's very difficult to come up with a lot of material with one car, you know, and I don't have access to other vehicles. I'm not a journalist, travel journalist, a transport journalist or anything. So you know, I should hopefully be getting a Tesla soon, and for a weekend, and I might do a few videos with that if you're interested in Teslas. So I'm going to get the new refreshed model, so we'll have a look at that one. But yeah, anyway, catch you soon. Have a great day, and let's hope we get some sun here in the UK.